Welcome to the North Tonawanda Football Hall of Fame YouTube channel. I'm Ed Maglisceau. Glad you could join us here today. Today, we're taking a trip down memory lane back to the 1950s. We're going to talk about a great family in North Tonawanda history, plus a very, very good, famous, legendary assistant coach for the Lumberjacks. Joining me from his home in Santa Fe, New Mexico, is the one and only Ed Maglisceau. Ed, good to see you. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
I guess you were you drew short straws between the brothers, and you were going to be the spokesman for doing this video, correct?
Yeah, I got two brothers. There's three of us guys who are Maglisceaus.
You guys, you and your brother Dick were born in Pennsylvania. Your father was born in the Pittsburgh area. Played college at Geneva College. Did some damage on a Division I level when your father played in the 1920s. Talk about your family growing up in the Pennsylvania area and your family in general.
Okay, yeah. There's I got my mom and my dad. Got married way back early in let's see, I don't know, it would be probably in the 20s, someplace along in that line, okay? And my dad played football at Geneva College, and the coach there was Bo McMillan, and that's how Seebeck gets involved in this thing. Bo McMillan was my dad's coach, and they started talking about it. And Nick Seebeck was the quarterback at North Tonawanda. And then my dad said to Bo, who was out at Indiana, because you must know.
Right.
And he came to me, my dad went to Bo and said, hey, we got this quarterback, Seebeck. And that's how Nick got out there. And he did a great job in Indiana, too. I know that. So my dad and mom got married in Pennsylvania. It's around Greenville. And they both taught in a place called Port Allegheny. And that's how they sort of got together. And that's where I was born. Port Allegheny is right on the border of New York, and Olean is where. And I was born in Olean, and they still lived in Port Allegheny. And the same thing was for Dick. But what ended up happening during the war, my dad got a job up in North Tonawanda as coach. And that would have been in 1942. And he brought Dick and me and our mom, and we lived in Payne Avenue in North Tonawanda. And then during the time we were in North Tonawanda, Jim was born. And so the three of us, and Jim was born, and Dick and I were starting school in like first grade and that kind of stuff. And Jim came along behind us on that. And then we all lived in this house right on Payne Avenue in North Tonawanda. And then after the war was over, my dad bought a house about a football field by the North Tonawanda High School. So he could walk to school. He had a nice deal on that. He could walk to school, and which he did. And then he became the coach during the war. And then after the war, Vetter came in and basically was the head coach then. My dad was the line coach. And then there's another coach, Norm Rogo. And that was the three coaches that for all the playing games I played and the games that Dick played. Jim never played football. And let's just go through the various sports. I played football, basketball, and baseball. Dick played track, tennis, and Jim played basketball, and I guess that's pretty much it on what we all were doing during that time. And I was born in '38, so I came into high school in 1956. It was when I was the last I played there, and then I went to Cornell, and I played in Cornell for 4 years. Played around the Ivy League for most of the things we did there. And that's sort of a background. Or you want to talk about some specific things I talked about?
Oh, of course we will. Of course, we're just warming up right now. What brought your father to North Tonawanda? Was it because of a job? Was it because of maybe George Vedder? Was it the lure of being part of North Tonawanda football, or what was that all about?
Yeah, he got a job at North Tonawanda. He called in. He somehow during the war got that. And what the other thing he did was worked in Niagara Falls at a factory, and he worked around that too. But he still played football, and he also coached during that time. And so then they built a house on Payne Avenue, if you know North Tonawanda, and that's the house we lived in. Jim was born in that house, or in the hospital, but we lived in that house. And that was pretty much how we all ended up being, to start off with.
When you played football at North Tonawanda, did you get your experience from Sandlot, or was there any organized football at that point?
No, I was before when I got to be in high school. I started playing in high school as a freshman, and John Pluak at that time in those days was the coach for the senior guard, the guys who were just playing football, and he was good on that. And then in the sophomore year, I started playing football, and I was mostly working as a lineman in the center, and then in backfield in defense, linebacker on that. And I played for those 3 years, like the first year with Pluak. Then the other ones were all with in my sophomore, junior, and senior, were all at North Tonawanda High School.
And that was under Coach Vedder, correct?
Yep, I played center. Yeah, on the line. Yeah.
But you played for Coach Vedder those 3 years as varsity.
Yeah, that's right.
And your father was the line coach. I got to ask you, how did it feel to play on the same team with your father coaching, or better yet, coaching you?
I thought it was great. Okay, he was a wonderful guy. He understood football. He had played it in his own game on that, and he would be around all the time. And he would never really coach me at home. We'd be coached in the field, and that's the way it worked. Okay, and he could walk back and forth to the house, about 100 yards, and that's how we ended up doing things during that time. So I enjoyed football in high school, and during those times, you probably know exactly what the school the football team worked in. In most years, we were very much involved in all of the things going on that. And then we have Doc Rogo, who worked the backfield. I don't know if you knew that or heard that along the way.
Sure.
But he was the backfield coach. And so it was basically Pluak a little bit, and then, of course, my dad, Vedder, and Doc.
Did your father ever bring home the work, the coaching work? Did he ever bring it home with him?
Not really. He was And he and Vetter were happy, I would say, together. And with Doc also, all three of them worked together. Now, we would talk about things happening, but he wouldn't sit at the table and talk about playing at Kenmore or any of that kind of stuff. He sort of just let it go, and we were schooling. And then we could, again, work at the football field and get all we needed. At least I did. And Dick was sort of coming along, and he had also to play football.
What was the equipment like back then? No face mask.
That's right. We had all of the normal leg, the on the top of the legs you have things there. You would have the
shoulder pads,
and then you'd have the helmet, and there really wasn't a bar. Once in a while you might see one, but not a lot for us at that point in time.
Was there a lot of helmet-to-helmet contact or helmet-to-face contact back then, or did you respect one another and wouldn't go there?
No, we wouldn't. In practice, we would work at it, but we wouldn't get as much as you would in the game. On that, we do some things we could also do though, because Vetter and Doc and my dad would be there, and once in a while, like my dad would take the linemen, work with them. Doc would take the backfield guys, and then Vetter would sort of work with everybody on that time during those times. And then Dick came along a couple of years after me, and so he played my last year in the backfield on that too.
Okay. Describe George Vetter for people who don't know about him.
Yeah, George Vetter was the football coach. George Vetter worked on football. That was his thing. He taught, but he had Vetter had a very good way of keeping things going, and kept us going too, especially in the games. Like in games in those days, my dad would be on a steel, maybe, I don't know, 30 yards high, or a big high thing, and the games were played at the field, our field. And my dad would be up there talking to George and what we ought to be doing here and there and everywhere. So the combination was right there, good on that.
Okay, so your father was up in the tower.
Yeah, he was up in the tower. Yeah,
telling George, instructing George, giving him pointers on what.
Yeah, he would talk with George. He would give. If there's the lineman on the other side is not any good, then George could get a play in there and make the thing go.
Talk about playing against some of the guys you played with. One was Frank Pilata during that time period. Talk about some of your former teammates back then.
Yeah, as Frank was one, and he was great. He was a great player, and did a lot of good things. And I think you probably have a good history of him. And he was a good guy and a good follower on that. And we had some guys, and I can't remember all of the guys, but one is Doug Whirl. We had the single wing that we played. I played all 4 years in single wing on that, and the single wing was working out very, very well, and that's what Vetter had. And that's usually along the way was different what everybody else would do, so we could actually have a pretty good way of playing games during that time with Vetter and my dad and Plot and Doc and Pluak, all of those guys working together at that.
What was your TNT experience like?
It was wonderful. We would had a great following where we were on Tabor Place, where we could walk. People would come in from that part of the city and go to the games, and the games would have mostly the home games would have people all over our side. going there and cheering and all of that kind of stuff. It was a big deal in North Tonawanda, and for many, many years in North Tonawanda, it was a lot. After I graduated and went to Cornell, they still did everything like that. The way it all went.
Did you play for bigger crowds at North Tonawanda or Cornell?
I don't know. I played in North Tonawanda. I played every game, and for most of the game. When I got to Cornell, I ended up. I was the coach out there. Vetter was a good buddy with the coach out there, and I played for all of the years at Cornell as the center, and it was a great thing, and I could do that. It worked out very, very well. We played all of the Ivies, and the biggest game of the year would be down at Penn. We would go down to take the train down from Ithaca and go down and play in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia. And we played our games down there on that. So that's sort of the way it went. And it was a great thing for me, and I think for Cornell also during that time.
What was it like playing with your brother Dick on the same team at North Tonawanda?
I think it was a good thing because he was he actually played tailback and then he went to Allegheny College, which is in Pennsylvania, and that's where he went to school and played football down there. And then, of course, Jim was the biggest of all of us. He's 6'7", and he didn't play football. The idea of him playing football, at least in our minds, were you might really get beat up pretty badly, and you're such a great basketball player, you need to work in basketball. So that's what he pretty much did on that. He never, in my mind anyway, played any football because he wanted to really play the basketball. And then, by the way, the basketball worked out for him on that. At Cornell, the coach over there heard about Jim, came and found about him, and he got him to come out to Cornell. So that worked out very well for him, for Jim.
Jim also became a North Tonawanda basketball Hall of Famer and is also on the Wall of Fame. Do you ever look back and say, boy, we had a good time in North Tonawanda as kids, and look where it took us?
Yeah, I had a great time in North Tonawanda. The people there are wonderful. They were very happy around. I could find things. They followed sports in most places, and it was just all fun for that kind of thing. And the town was a busy town. Wurlitzer had a plant out there then. It's long gone from that down to the south part of the country. But a lot of people out with there were coming to school also. And every time I see that kind of thing going around, I think about good old North Tonawanda with that being in that part of the town. I would tell you the football team. I don't know how well the football team would go at NT, and the TNT game was always a big thing. And fortunately, when I played on it, I think we beat them every time. Kenmore was another game we play, a big game we play. Niagara Falls would be another big game. Trot and LaSalle we play. Usually beat up both of those two. Niagara Falls was more of a team. Lockport also would beat Lockport. And the way the league was going at that point in time, we would go to let's say Niagara Falls this year. Next year, Niagara Falls would come to NT. So those kind of things all happened, and the teams all came and played. And there's one guy at Lockport, John Furlong, and he and I, for somehow, he played baseball and football and basketball, and he and I ended up talking to each other for some reason. He came to Cornell, same as I did. So he played at Cornell, so we had that. He played basketball there. I played football, and we had some good times with that.
You said what was the recruiting like for the football team? I mean, was it word of mouth and the connections that George Vetter had and with coaches, or how did that work out?
Yeah, Vetter was the Cornell coach was Lefty James, and that's what Vetter knew him, and Vetter said, "Hey, you need to get Ed Maglisceau." So he got me out there by coming, to come to Cornell, lefties, because of what Vetter did for me. And I think the same thing happened with Furlong. And then Furlong played basketball there, as I said before, and he and I've lost time of him now, but for a long time we talked to each other after we graduated.
How much influence did George Vetter have with recruiting?
He would be very, from what I would think,
he was very proactive.
Yeah, he had connections with like that, and some of our players went to different colleges, and that's one thing that George, I thought, was a good thing, because he knew these coaches in the college. And that's a nice sort of thing that worked out pretty well, I thought, for us. I don't know how other people in the NFL did, but with us, we had several people go to college to play different football games.
Did it make any difference in the NFL that you were playing a big school or a small school, or were you even aware that it was a big school or a small school that you were playing?
For North Tonawanda?
Yeah.
Yeah. North Tonawanda was a pretty good big size school. I think North Tonawanda, if you put the factories that are out in the back there, is probably if you sit and go through the different schools, you have the Niagara Falls team. That was a pretty good team. Those guys Vetter didn't, I don't think, play with them very much in terms of helping them. But they would be out there. LaSalle, we would really go over. Trot, we would really go over. Lockport, we would go over. We would be going to each other teams during the years there. You play one time in North Tonawanda, the next time it's Lockport, and back and forth. Kenmore, Lackawanna would be another one. And the last year I was there in '56, we had only one loss, I think, is what the score is, if you happen to have that number. But I think it was just one loss we had that year.
Your father also coached track for a lot of years at North Tonawanda. Was he a better track coach or a better football coach?
Oh, I think you have to sort of talk it this way. He was a wonderful football coach because his kids were playing, I think, and he was really a kind of coach that he would try to find the coaches, the kids, and he would, for the example, we would go off before we do a scrimmage. We'd go off to the field and sort of in the end zone, and we'd go through and do some coaching. He would teach us how to work against he put some of us in offense and some in defense, and we would actually have little line plays working during that. So he was a very good coach in football, I think, on that. And I think George Vetter used him a lot to tell, and my dad would be talking with Vetter about this and that and this and that and this and that. So I think he's a very, very good football coach, but he never did any more than from North Tonawanda on that.
How about on the track side?
I'm sorry?
How about at being a track coach?
Being a track coach, he ran the best track business,
The best track program?
Track was, the best track. He had a lot of the best track kids playing in North Tonawanda. Now, we would not have kids coming in from Lackawanna or Tonawanda, for that kind of thing. He did it for North Tonawanda. And then he would also have a spring track meet, and other people would come in, and he would take care of that. And it was a wonderful thing for that. So he was a terrific football coach, and he had played football, but he was also a terrific track coach because he'd work hard on that. And that's what Dick, my brother Dick, was. He played tennis, but he decided also to play track. So he would go over and help and do something on track. Dick was much faster than I and Jim. So Dick was to do some things on the track, maybe a 100-yard dash, that kind of stuff. So I think my dad was a great coach of football, a wonderful coach of track, and a terrific teacher of history in the school.
When you're out in Santa Fe and you meet somebody and you get in a conversation with him, you start talking about high school football. What do you tell them about North Tonawanda football and perhaps growing up in North Tonawanda?
North Tonawanda football was a very popular thing. It was, I think, I played football for the 4 years and all that kind of stuff. And I think for those 4 years and beyond, the football is just a wonderful sport and a big sport in North Tonawanda. And that just kept on going. And again, my brother Dick would have been playing at that situation, and Jim would be in basketball. He wouldn't be in the. And I think Jim also was in tennis too. He did something for tennis too. On that.
When you look at football on television today and the way it's evolved, what do you think when you watch it?
Today's games and today's athletes?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that I could give you some feeling on that. At least where we are sitting here in good old Santa Fe. Santa Fe has like 4 schools, and those schools play each other. The town is a much bigger town than North Tonawanda. And therefore, these games are being played between the different schools. And there's some just wonderful coaches here, high school coaches. In almost every sport, you're going to find the teams are all playing within the Santa Fe building, or in the Santa Fe buildings. And a little bit, you might have one of them go down to play somebody in Albuquerque or someplace on that. There's a lot of that kind of stuff that goes on. But the schools, the high schools, are probably 5 different high schools in Santa Fe right now, and they're all good. They all have good coaches. If you go to their games, which I do, you're going to find the coaches are playing good games, and the kids are playing good games in almost every sport. And then the newspaper here, a little bit like the North Tonawanda News, would talk about these games that are going on here. All the games, you see all the things that are there, and you can sit every day and look at the paper and find out, like the Tonawanda News, but it's the Santa Fe paper. You look at those papers, you can see what teams are doing what to what teams. And it's really fun watching that kind of thing. And what I do once in a while is just go to those games. It's sort of fun to go. The kids are all good. Their coaches are all good. And so some of the games are very, very good to go to.
How big were you? How big were you when you played?
How big was I when I played?
How big were you in high school, and how big were you at Cornell?
Yeah, I was when I played the game, I was like 210, 210, 200 to 210, something like that. And I would be weighed, maybe like 130, something like that. I was pretty good size playing at Cornell. I was lucky to have that. And then Jim also came to Cornell, and he had the same situation that I did in that.
Instead of 130, you were meant to say you played at 230, your weight at Cornell.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
All right, I just want to make sure, because you'd be shrinking at that
Oh,
point.
it was too. I'm sorry, I missed on that.
No, not a problem. We've talked about several things so far during this conversation. What would you like to talk about that I haven't brought up?
There's not an awful lot. I feel that I had a terrific coaching situation in North Tonawanda. And I know Dick and I know Jim also had the same situation. They had the ability, they had the coaching and the games, and North Tonawanda was really well taken care of there. So I think that's the only thing I think that maybe we could talk a little bit more about, but I couldn't give it to you because I'd have to go back and do a lot of other things. But I think for all of us, all three of us, we've had great times at college, and it's been good for us. We all have good jobs these days, and we're all living around. We talk to each other back and forth. Jim is in, as you probably know, in Arizona. Dick is down in Dallas, and we're sitting here in Santa Fe. And we go over once in a while and see Jim. We go down to Dallas. We have a lot of kids of my wife and I, in Dallas, so we go down that way lots. And it's been a wonderful place to be. I'm looking out the window right now, and I'm seeing clouds, and I'm seeing mountains. I'm seeing some wonderful trees and parks and all that kind of stuff. So it's really a terrific place to be, and good for all of us. Jim is again in Arizona. He's doing extremely well there, and Dick is down in Dallas, right north of Dallas, and he's doing good things also there. So all of us, I would say, are doing well. We talk with each other lots, and it's been awful lot of fun. And I've enjoyed this very much too, just sitting here talking to you, Ed. You're a good man, and you do an outstanding job, I think, in helping people to understand what's going on in the world in a good situation. One thing I should tell you, I did have a career at IBM. And IBM is a wonderful company, still going along. I've been out of IBM for about 10 years, but I'm still loving it, and I still enjoy that very much on that. And then Dick and Jim also had jobs in different places, and they did well too, and are doing well too. So it's a really good time these days for us. I would tell you that. Thank you.
Thank you for the kind words. I'm going to ask you this. One final question. How should the Maglisceau family be remembered in North Tonawanda history?
I think it's probably North Tonawanda. We've been out of North Tonawanda for so much time that more than likely the Maglisceau name probably would not get in. It would get in the people who are senior people these days, and that kind of thing. I do think our dad and mom were taken very well by the students, and so therefore they would perhaps the people living there would still remember them in the high school. My mother actually went to Kenmore for a couple of years. She was English teacher, and so she went to Kenmore for a couple. And we always used to laugh with her when she'd come home because she worked so hard at the doggone thing. But it was nice that she could be able to do that. It was a real big thing for her on that. So anyway, I think in North Tonawanda, the Maglisceau name might be there, but it's going to be people like us, the older people more than likely, because the other people coming along probably haven't had an opportunity to have our mom and dad involved in what they're doing.
Ed Maglisceau, I want to thank you so much for joining me here today. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for taking us down your trip of memory lane and trying to relive those years going back in the 1950s, early 1960s, and beyond. I wish you well. Take care. Good health to you. And best of luck to you and your family.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. And Ed, I think you've done doggone good. And I appreciate your time and the effort you have for the Maglisceau family. You take care now, okay?
You as well. Thank you, my friend.